Hello, YouTube. My name is Gray, and today I am going to be bringing you a video on the current state of the interactive server in GMS, in Global MapleStory, at least my side of how I feel about the current state of Global MapleStory and my experience with the current issues that I believe are in the game that aren't really being addressed. I don't want to call out any specific YouTuber or creators in the MapleStory space because a lot of them play on Heroic and everything, and I understand that Heroic has its own set of issues, and I don't want to take away their agency from mine because they're two separate servers, and I think that's why Korean MapleStory decided to end up getting rid of their Heroic server, because they constantly had this battle of players not being able to trade certain items within the account, obviously not being able to trade frags with even within their account and everything, and having those two separate game mode economies, trying to keep them balanced together. I could understand why they moved away and ended up settling on just having one, so that they could make a game that is, more polished than what we currently have. Not to say that it's not possible to have both servers running in tandem at the same time. I just think that they realized that they could produce a much higher quality of polish when you only had to focus around one center player base and allowing trading and those types of things. Anyway, so I have a list of things that I'd like to talk about that are specific to not only just interactive. Some of this will affect Heroic as well, but I think that overall this will bring GMS to that next level of this feels like an MMO that should be in 2026, not the old 2000s where we used to play and everything. So first things first is the cash shop. The cash shop is one of the worst and most predatory systems in a video game that I've ever seen. Yes, there's a lot of microtransactions in other games and everything, but Nexon is on that next level of things cost significantly more for us as players than other games cost for other things that they get. I know, just coming off the Destiny side of things, where we were paying a lot of money per DLC and season pass and everything, but I think that logically I got my money out of that, whereas with MapleStory, a lot of the time you're losing money and you're not ever gaining anything by paying money for things. Like, for instance, the Achilles heel of interactive is bonus potentials. Bonus potentials are a huge source of interactive damage. If you don't pay for bonus potential cubes and you only do them on events and stuff like that, which we don't get a lot of bonus potential cubes from events, even compared to like Korea, where they get like significantly more bonus potential cubes than we do, which is insane to think about, because we used to say that Korean MapleStory was stingy and we were the lucky ones, and now that's certainly flipped on its head. But bonus potential cubes are a huge portion of damage that you can get on your gear, and I know that there are a lot of high-end people that have gone even beyond sort of what like the recommended thing is, which is normally you run some sort of 3-line on your main pot and then you just run 2-line on your B pot. You can see on my Genesis weapon I am running technically a 3-line B pot. I would prefer it if 1-line was 13% attack and everything, but I settled with this because I knew that I wasn't going to get anything better than that, and 3% attack isn't that much in the grand scheme of things when I could get it from like a familiar or something like that, which they don't really account for in KMS. So bonus potentials are a huge source of our damage and everything, and that again goes back to the cash shop. those cubes are incredibly predatory because we don't have the same KMS system where all of their cubes are the equivalent of a black cube. We still have like standard like red cube variant where you can essentially lose damage, but you've spent real money on it, and you still have the same percentage chance as the free-to-play cubes. Like, it doesn't change anything. So essentially you're gambling and throwing money away every single time you try and get a B pot. It's terrible, and they're so much more expensive as well. And we don't have a way to buy them. Well, I guess you kind of have a way to buy them with Meso if you transfer them to Maple Points and use Maple Points to buy them. But again, like, you're talking about billions of Meso, which most people don't have that kind of income, because we have 5 times less income than Heroic. If we go and we look at where is it? We go and look at our boss crystals, just as an example. Our hard Saren gives us 220 million mesos. I think the same on Heroic is a bill, or just shy of a bill. It's like 980 mil and everything. So imagine you're getting 1/5 of the amount of mesos, but we're killing the same amount of bosses, which require a significantly higher amount of damage to clear, and we're just you're expected to just sort of deal with it. It's not great. The conversion rate is not great as well. Like, Meso to Maple Points to try and buy something it's not a viable path or avenue whatsoever. You're better waiting for an event. On the other side of things that come from the cash shop, which are also incredibly predatory, is vac pets. On Heroic, there's one set of 3 vac pets that stay in the shop. I don't know if it's indefinite or whether it's with events and everything, but I've seen it there every single time I've checked, which is they have 3 vac pets that they can buy for $100. Yes, it's incredibly expensive. I'm in Australia, and I'll talk about currency conversion in a sec. But to not even have a way to buy a vac pet outright from the cash shop, you have to Wonderberry on Interactive. So you have to gamble. That's not 100% true, but to buy into the system, you have to Wonderberry, essentially. Or the other solution is you either wait 80 weeks, it's a little bit less than 80 weeks, it's like 60 something, 62, 63 weeks, to get 80 bill mesos from a C10 hard Saren boss mule, essentially, to get 80 bill to buy one from the auction house. Both solutions are terrible for interactive players, because just as people like Dookie and Joe and everything have pointed out, vac pets are essential to grinding in this grinding game, so that you get things like your frags, you get things like your solar energy, and you're not dropping kills. It's even worse on interactive, because we will use things like Frenzy to get our kills per hour up even higher, so you have even less time to jump around the map with shit pets, without vac pets, essentially, to be able to get the maximum uptime. And you don't realize how much you're losing out on it until you have a vac pet. I don't even have a vac pet on this character. None of my pets are vac pets, so I don't grind. I cannot grind on this character wholeheartedly, knowing that I will constantly be at a deficit compared to someone who has even just one vac pet. So not having access to some sort of standardized 3 vac pets that you can buy for $100, I know it's incredibly expensive, it should be way less, but not having that and having to Wonder Black your way into a vac pet, or, like I said, again, 80 sometimes depending on the VAC Pet set, if the VAC Pet set is really bad, and no one buys the Wonderberry packs and everything, those pet prices can go up astronomically. It's insane. And I know that you can be like, oh, well, it just takes longer for you to get resources and everything. You don't understand how much longer it takes to get resources. Things like grinding for Meso in interactive is not really something that we do. Like, it is a byproduct of us getting XP. People grind for Mesos in Heroic and the byproduct is XP. You never grind for XP in Heroic, or at least that's what I think. So we've got some very bad systems there in place that could be solved very, very easily by just having, again, a standard set of 3 that like Heroic has, where you can buy it, and Water of Life and everything. I think the Water of Life should also change. I won't go into semantics about that, but I think 30 days is not enough. I think it should be like a 90-day thing. For $15, it's stupid. On the same side of the cash shop thing, I think that for Global MapleStory, I've seen some people already talk about this. We've lost a lot of features that make us global. Like, you can't really play globally. There are some areas like in Japan and Singapore and Korea where you can't actually play Global MapleStory. A bit confusing, considering it says global on the thing. It's more like America MapleStory is what I was seeing in like comments and stuff, which makes a lot of sense, considering, again, like I said, everything in the shop is USD. Nothing currency conversion and everything. It's all done by your bank, essentially, and you get screwed a lot of the time. I feel like every time I have to buy an X, which isn't that often, I normally just buy for like Challenger World, and that's pretty much it. I don't dabble in philo books or anything like that. I've only ever bought one VAC Pet, and that's on the Heroic account, which is on the Ren and everything. I might get another one for my Mercedes for that account at some point, but it's not an issue right now. If we get Universal Cash Shop, that's another thing that could happen that we're dead in the water about. It would be lovely to know how much, how far away we are from getting the Universal Cash Shop, or if it's being worked on at all. They just, again, no communication about this. It's really bad. So having some local pricing, fixing up the cash shop a little bit, changing some of the pricing, that would incentivize more people to buy things. I know that those things would make us want to buy more and invest more into MapleStory if these things were changed. The bonus potentials are a huge one. I think that if you're going to spend money on cubes, those cubes should be significantly higher chance in power that you don't have that huge random variance because you're specifically paying for it. I think that should also apply to the event cubes as well, especially just the bonus potential ones. The black cubes and the red cubes and everything could probably stay the same realistically, considering that I think a lot of my items and everything, I just free to play cubed them, like my heart. This is fully free to play, so it's possible. It didn't take a super long time to get it either. Like it took maybe like 2 events and everything, which is like 3 months apart sometimes. So it's it is possible, but I feel like a lot of people don't interact with these systems on interactive because it's just too expensive. And again, like I said, on a system that has RNG in it, like, why would you risk your money for something where you could potentially lose, and lose big as well? Like, if you went from you know, what's a good bonus potential that I have? I don't know. If you had a 3-line bonus potential for whatever reason on something, and you lost it, because the cubes that you were using weren't the equivalent of black cubes, that'd be very silly, and you would hate the fact that you spent money on it. I understand that it's supposed to be an RNG system and everything, but again, like the price is ridiculously high for the amount of return that you get on it. Alright. Moving on from cash shop related things, and going on to let's go to gear. Let's focus on gear in interactive. So getting gear in interactive is an interesting dilemma, because as you can see, I am 3-piece Eternal, perfectly fine. They could be better. Same with my Arcanes, they could be better. But I have a 22 shoulder. Well, where did the 22 shoulder come from? Well, like most people do in interactive, you don't make your gear. No one, well, it's not no one, some people make their gear, but a lot of people don't make their gear because they would rather buy a finished piece like this one and not risk the chance with potentials and bonus potentials and starring, considering how much it costs. Our Star Force cost is the exact same on Heroic that it is here, but we have 5 times less income on interactive than the people on Heroic. The only difference is that we get pitch drops that we can then sell on the auction house. Now, pitched items that are on the auction house have gone down in price because everyone can do C10E now. So something that was worth 20 to 30 bill clean is now worth 10 to 5 bill, at the most. So now our income on that front is even worse than it was before. Something like, take a Ring of Restraint, for instance. When I bought my first skill ring, which was just a weapon jump dex level 4, I paid 6 to 7 billion mesos for a subpar ring, essentially. And at the time, a raw 4 was like 40 to 50 billion mesos. Well, now they're around 5 billion mesos because everyone can do C10E. That's good because that gets more people up higher. But again, there's a ceiling. The ceiling, a lot of the time, for most people, is around here. The ceiling is right here at Hard Saren. If we look at my stats, I'll put my familiars on and everything. I just recently broke, 300 mil combat power. I've been doing Hard Saren since I got to like 240 mil combat power, and the only thing that's changed since then is maybe like a couple of potential lines, and I've had a Source of Suffering and an eye patch, which I bought this eye patch. I bought it finished because there is no way in hell am I ever getting this item and starring it when it has such a high chance of boom. The chances of me ever seeing this item are 5 times less than someone on Heroic. There is no way that I'm ever doing that. So I bought it finished. And I'm going to continue doing the same for the rest of my pitched. So most people, they stop here at Hard Saren. They don't. I know people that don't even do like these, like Easy Callus and Easy Adversary. I should be doing normal. Ignore that. And some people don't even go up this high. Some people stop here at Hard V Healer, and that's it. That's a significant drop in meso between here and here. It goes from like 1.6 down to like 1.1. It's a significant drop. So even with getting spares and everything for making your gear, arcanes are more feasible than eternals. But to go up higher, up here, you need eternals. Yes, adversary bridges that gap somewhat, but it doesn't get you all the way. So even these pieces here, which people are still getting them from, you know, these bosses up here and everything, the supply of them is actually quite low, because a lot of the people that are in these parties and everything, they hoard them for themselves and they don't sell them because they want, you know, 25 star gear. So we're seeing even less of these pieces come into the game, so you can't even buy spares to make gear for yourself, so you're out of luck again. The best and only way to get gear, to get out of these like dead zones essentially, is to buy pre-finished gear, which is astronomically expensive. I would love to know what people think that a 22 star 5-line piece of pitched is worth in the comments. I would love to know what people think that they, you know, as a heroic player, I'd love to know what you guys think it is. And then, oh man, if you, fuck it, I'll say it. For a single piece of pitched at 22 stars, 5-line, with the correct stats, and again, there's huge variance in things like flames, there's huge variance in things like scrolling. You can see on my eye patch here, it has 18 attack. Compare that to my source, which has 6. These both have, this has even less slots than my source, and it's got less. So it just goes to show. But roughly at the moment, I think, I mean, the current meso for an item like an eye patch, when I bought it just recently, was 110 billion meso for a finished item. The ET, like the Endless Terrors that I'm looking at, are like 80 bill mesos. So that's over a year's worth of bossing on one character. Yes, I have multiple that can see 10, that's besides the point. But imagine you're a new player coming in to the game, you know, you've just finished Challenger World, you know, you're trying to get out of, you know, whatever gear it is that, you know, you have. Maybe you go into your Galax and you have your Twilight mark and your Pap mark and everything. Well, the next step is to go into pitched, and, you know, judging how long it takes to get meso and everything, you decide that, like most people, that it's more viable for you to buy your items outright, and then you go and see the price. Look, without selling any pitched on the auction house and stuff like that, you're looking at a minimum of 80 weeks at the moment to get one item. And there's no, and you wouldn't want to be on the in-between of like, oh, I'll just start my gear, I'll start my gear anyway. You don't want to do that, because if it's pitched, like even with the current systems of like trace restoration, pitch whisper crystals, bosses that drop, you know, I mean, we don't have any here that could drop, you know, pitched items and everything. It doesn't matter. There's no way for us to expedite those processes and buy more gear. And again, like it costs more for a clean eye patch than it does for the Star Force thing to get back to where you were if it boomed. So people, again, why would you interact with this system at all if you're just going to lose? That is every problem wrong with Star Forcing on interactive. Yes, the new Star Forcing system, the 114 and 444 exists and everything, but again, we're talking about billions of meso in increased cost for items that you need. It's insane to think that there's no way to alleviate these systems and stress relieve these systems to allow you to go up and get to those higher tier bosses. You are stuck. You are hard stuck. You are essentially, whatever your paycheck is essentially, as far as you can go. It is better to buy gear than it is to make it yourself. There is no amount of Shining Star Force, no amount of cube sales, no amount of double miracle time can take away the fact that interactive players are screwed for every step after Arcanes. Arcanes, you can get away with, what I have, right? Where you've got legendary main pot potential, and you can rock a rare or an epic bonus potential with 17 to 18 star gear. It works. It's fine. You can get away with that. A lot of this is alleviated with 6 job. 6 job is very powerful and everything. And again, you have your, this system has its own issues with, again, if you don't have a vac pet, your soul order energy is too slow. Buying fragments isn't really a solution when it comes down to it, because you will always be soul order energy capped. The 9 that they give us per weekly, yes, it sounds good on paper, but you go through this significantly fast. And by significantly fast, you can probably, if you're farming 2 to 4 hours a day, which sounds like a lot, and it probably is, probably farm 2 hours a day, you could probably keep up with the fragment cost, but you'll never keep up with the soul order energy cost. Never. So what do? Well, you buy gear. You either pay the 100 bill per piece, or you do the other side of things, which is the illegal side of things, which is your RMT, your real world money trade for your items, which I told you that the meso cost was 100 billion mesos. How much do you think that is in USD? Well, some pieces on the cheaper side could probably be around $700 US, and some people will take PayPal for that. And now you're risking $700 for one piece of gear. And you're hoping that they're a good person and that they're going to give you the item and they're not going to scam you. And they will always ask for family and friends. They will never ask for you to have buyer protection whatsoever. And as soon as you lose the money, that's it. You're out $700, $1,000, or more, depending on, if people think there is more value in your item, whether it's been exceptionally enhanced, or someone used return scrolls on it to get the maximum amount of attack power or magic attack for whatever item it is, to elevate it so that when it's in its final form, 25 stars and everything, you can go, hey, look, my scrolling was better than the average. People will do that. People will hoard an item and try and min-max it to the absolute ceiling. That excludes things like having items that have double prime on them. People sell those. People will sell items that have double prime pots, 3-line bonus potentials, and they will ask astronomical prices for them because they know that they can get away with it. Because what's the alternative option? You roll the dice, you gamble, your chance at getting those potentials on your item in a cheaper time that it would have cost you to pay for a finished item. That's the toss-up. And 9 times out of 10, it is better to pay the person the astronomical upfront cost than it is to ever make a piece of gear in interactive. I know I've harped on this for a very long time, but I just want you to understand how much of a problem this is for players that are in my position, players that are even in a lower position that don't want to spend astronomical amounts of money on a free-to-play game where these systems that are on other servers and everything that make it easier for you to gain power just don't exist for Global MapleStory. It sucks. It really sucks because you have this form of elitism on interactive servers where we have guilds that are so strong in terms of covert and single player damage and everything that they will never interact with other people, and interactive is probably one of the worst servers when it comes to player interaction, because no one, and I mean no one, wants to, if you can solo a boss, they will want to solo it because that is now their boss crystal money that they're eating into. That is their chance at pitched that you're dropping into. It's even worse when you go up to Limbo and Baldrix and everything, because the sooner that you can clear those bosses solo, or you can drop one person from the party, that's instantly more meso in your pocket and less in somebody else's. So no one wants to party up. No one is partying up on interactive because no one wants anyone to eat into their profits. So, something like Kalos, for example. I used to party normal Kalos with a lot of people, and it was great because all the pieces that I got were mine. They were instants, they were mine, it didn't matter. Well, they changed it. Now normal drops 3 half pieces between a party of 6. So our party of 6 then became 3, and then became 2, and then became I have to now solo. And there's no way around it. As soon as people can solo, people are going to solo. Yes, it's a good thing, and it pushes you to, potentially go up a tier in a bossing bracket and everything. But a lot of the time it's frustrating because people don't have an infinite amount of time to learn these bosses. And again, if you're min clearing, right, every single week you're going 25 minutes plus in a normal Kalos run just to save yourself not even save yourself, just so that you can get the resources, because everybody else that's either in your guild or in your server doesn't want to party up because you're significantly weaker. That is what they will do. They will leave you behind 100% of the time because they don't care about your, they don't care about your meso, they don't care about your gains, they don't care about anything. They care about themselves, because again, at the end of the day, if they can sell a piece of an eternal piece or pitched piece on the auction house, that will get them ahead. They will then, propel themselves even further forward and everything. Every time you take away a little bit of that and everything, that slows them down. And we all know how slow this game is, the end game. It sucks. This game about collaboration and partying up and everything has none of it, because as soon as you can solo, and again, most people stop partying up as soon as they reach 20 minutes, right? As soon as you can solo clear at 20 minutes, people immediately cancel parties and they bugger off, and that's it and everything. And then because they get a drop early, well, now that 20-minute run is now a 15-minute run, and then all of a sudden, more 6 job comes out. That 15-minute run is now a 12-minute run. They are 3 bursting 3 origin bursting. Sorry, I should say 3 origin bursting a boss that was taking them 20 minutes, however long ago, and everything, and you're stuck in the dust because you didn't have the damage to solo at the time, which is why you were in the party in the first place, and they're gone, and that's it. That's the cycle of interactive. Is if you get left behind, if you get poor RNG, that is it. There's no catch-up mechanics. That's it. It's over. I am, I'd say I am one of those players where, like I showed you at the start of this video, I am essentially maxed on my 6th job, right? Everything here is 30, apart from Soul Hecate, which just came out, and Yanis, which I haven't touched this in forever because I've stopped grinding. But everything else is maxed. I have, all 3 of these. I'm not going to min-max these because this is useless to me to min-max these. But I am maxed. The only thing that I can do is get more gear. And I can't afford it. I have 49 bill to my name, and I can't afford the next piece that pushes my damage up high enough to go to the next boss. I can't swap this shoulder out, which I have right here. I can't go 5 set and break this 4 set because this will not get me enough damage to go up a tier. Yes, it's only 15 stars and it'll go to 18 eventually. But this was the only reason I did this was because I knew that eventually I wanted this on another character, so I'm not losing the money that I spent on this for this, and this was cheap because I was duoing a boss with someone, so they sold it to me for incredibly cheap. But not everyone's gonna get lucky like this. No one's gonna get, it just stars aligned for this to happen, right? You can see I have these fucking spares sitting here ready to go, but I'm never gonna fucking do it because it's just worthless. Absolutely worthless. This game needs significantly, which is why I complained about the new star forcing system on all the heroic players that were like, oh, the star forcing system's amazing and everything. No, it's not. Being able to, slide this slider around and look at it, 300 per tap. It's still broken and you can't go to 4. Useless for an arcane because you should just be rocking spares, so to speak. But again, look at the price. Look at the price. Safeguard 400 mil. That's practically half. It's a third for this character, but a third of my meso per week in 1 tap. Insane. And yes, I know it's safeguarding and everything, and I wouldn't have to because I've got 4 spares. I would have more, but again, I haven't been stocking up on this character. So this enhancement mode system is useless for me. It does nothing. I don't need it for a source. I don't need it for an ET. I don't need it for a Berserk. I don't need it for a Dreamy Belt. I don't need it for a CFE. Because all these items I will buy finished because I will not interact with this whatsoever. The only time that I might potentially interact with this is on my bossing mules. But for damn well, I am not sliding this ever because I'll just wait for a Shining Star Force weekend, which would give me the same odds without tripling the meso cost. I don't know how more I can say that this these issues with gearing, and I know I've been talking about this for a very, very long time, but it sucks. It sucks. Even something like the pitch whisper crystals, I have 256 of them. I'm saving for a Jenny badge. I actually just recently saw a Jenny badge, and I sold it. That's how I have this much money. It cost, well, sorry, no, it didn't cost. I sold it for 42 billion mesos. That's how much I got from one Jenny badge. Cool, right? No, not cool. Because I can only do Black Mage once a month. And that's it. I still have to wait to hit, 390 Pitch Whisper crystals? It's a long time. It's 7 Pitch Whisper crystals a week. So, however long that is, it's I can't remember the math. I did the math a little while ago. So gearing sucks in interactive. Everyone buys it. The only people who make their gear are whales, essentially. Like any gacha whale essentially is the only people who make gear. That's it. If you're not spending money on the game, and even if you think, oh, I'll use the meso market and everything, you can see the average cost, right? That's one bill. Sorry, no. That's one bill. It's expensive. It's not cheap. It sucks. This sucks. This system sucks. You can technically real world trade for mesos as well. People will do it at a cheaper price than this. But again, you risk your account every single time you real world trade, because again, I mean, gear not so much, but for mesos, oh yeah, people will bot on this for mesos, and then sell it to you and say that they were like legit and everything, and I've seen people in my guild that they got slapped with it, and they bought from reputable sellers and everything. It sucks. Alright. On the last thing of gear that I want to talk about is meso drop gear. We don't really run meso drop gear on interactive, but I think that something interesting that and this probably won't work, but what I would like is for meso drop gear to be universal, either world based or account based. We either stop having to have gear that has meso drop on it, and it becomes its own like stat system where it can show up in your stat window and everything. But being universal, it's on all your characters. You only have to do it once. You don't have to keep doing it for every single character. I'd like to see a system like that, so that you can again reduce the variance, reduce the amount of time that it takes to get a character up to, you can get a character through C10 relatively quickly, but to get your drop gear on top of that, it's not easy. So having some way to alleviate that with account wide, worldwide drop and meso might be a way to solve that issue. Account wide would be nice, because then things like Challenger World, you could go in immediately with higher drop and you wouldn't have to worry about it. Same with higher meso and everything. You'd only have to go and get your familiars and stuff, which would make the game significantly easier. I think, I can't remember if that's fact pets that I'm thinking about. That I was thinking that they're bringing familiars to everyone or something. No, it was badges. Badges are universal. So yeah, you don't have to worry about that anymore. So yeah, so those are my issues with interactive and their current gearing problems and my growing pains about it. Let's go on to familiars now. Familiars are an interesting topic. I would like to see the familiar system to be looked into a little bit more. I particularly don't like the line. I don't like how you add familiars and then reveal their potentials to try and hit lines. I think that there needs to be I would like to see a way that, yes, like you can still reveal lines and everything, but I'd like to see a better like fusion and extraction system so that you don't have to keep leveling them up every single time. Like being able to take, this burst glare that's unique and, fuse a bunch of them into it again to re-roll it again at unique would be nice. So I don't have to go through the whole process all over again. Would be nice. Something to just alleviate this system and make it a much nicer system to interact with, because it doesn't feel good to interact with this. It feels very boring. It feels very bland. It feels like really hit or miss. Red cards for us are okay. Yes, they alleviate some of that issue and everything, but having more of a free-to-play aspect to it would be nicer and everything. And you take a unique fam like this and you put a red card on it, and I haven't, in the amount of red cards that I have, I don't want to say I've done many and everything, but I've never seen one tier up from unique to legendary. Legendary fams, again, they're too far in between. I think like legendary fams are like 20 bill a pop, 10 to 20 bill for one, and again, you won't even see the lines that you want on reveal most likely, so then you're dipping in again to buy more red cards to try and get the lines that you want. Again, this system, it feels a bit outdated. I think that this needs to be looked at again. I think it can certainly stay in the game. I just think that it needs to change. I want better ways of farming, better ways of infusing, and a better way to get lines that's not as egregious as this. But yeah, that's it's okay. But again, like I said, this could be way better for the players and everything. Again, taking some variants out, giving us more systems that interact with it, to actually get us the things that we want out of the system, rather than being such a minute percentage and everything. Like people who are at the end game, they run 2 lines on everything. Most people will probably run 1 line, so it's the equivalent of having 6 familiars versus 3. Like, it's insane. So yeah, so something needs to change here. It's better to actually run 6 legendary familiars and just keep re-rolling, have them here and just re-roll them with red cards when you feel like it, and then when you get a 2-line one that's actually usable, you just swap it in, and then that next one becomes the one that you roll until it becomes a 2-line, and everything. So you're doubling the amount here just to save yourself and everything. And again, the difference between a legendary and a unique is quite substantial when it comes to the lines that drop on them. So again, it's a lot of meso for not a lot of gains, but you need it at the high end. So again, something to make this system more approachable, where you're not just wasting money all the time, would be nice. Okay. Now, for the last one, which this will be very controversial for most people, but I would like to see more visual feedback from MapleStory. For an example, more feedback in the sense of something like pitch pity, right? Like, you go into a boss and everything, you clear, you get into the box room and everything. Something small like, I don't think I have it on a key. I do not. Let me grab. Where is it? There it is. Battle analysis. Something, small like this shows up. You're in the boss. You're in the bonus room. Yeah, you're in the rewards room, and then something like this pops up, and it says, it can say like your damage. It can, let's say, your contribution and everything. But then it also says, your current, dry streak is, X, and your next pitch percentage is whatever, right? Then, so you now have a visual aid that tells you, what you're expecting, right? Having a pitched pity system where, like, this is an example, and I have no evidence to show this, but say, for instance, on interactive, pitched is 1% chance each time you break a box. Whether drop interacts with that or not, I don't know. But you start at 1%. Dry streak is 0. Start at 1% and everything. You break the box, and that goes up to 2%. Sorry, you break the box. You don't get a pitched item. Dry streak is now 1. Your pitch percentage is now 2% for that boss, not for every C10 boss, but for that specific boss. So, like, just an example, let's say Lucid. So for a Dreamy Belt, I now have a 2% chance. So I come back next week and everything, and my dry streak becomes 2, and now it goes up to 3% and everything, and it can go all the way up to whatever percentage Nexon feels generous. I was thinking like 20%. I know that people make memes about pitched, it's 50-50, you either get it or you don't. I even say that myself. But at the end of the day, there are numbers that stop us from getting these drops. It would be nice to be able to have a visual representation of that. The thing that I talk about a lot in like comment sections and everything is how old school RuneScape, whenever they release something like a new boss or a bit of PVM content and everything, when a new drop that's desirable comes out, the drop rate is released for that item. 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000, 1 in 5,000. Being able to see a correlation number between the item that you're expecting and the variance being, 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000, 1 in 5,000, being able to know that that is the number doesn't change the fact that the grind might be terrible or whatever, but at least you know that statistics are on your side somewhat, right? Like, you're not throwing a dart at a dartboard and the number is changing every single week and everything. You just having some aspect of like, okay, I have control of, just not like having the knowledge of those numbers significantly reduces stress and alleviation from those grinds. Like, if a pet is 1 in 5,000, there are people who go and do, and I'll just use a YouTuber that I watch. His name is It's Will. he's the like the pet getter. He's funny about that and everything. You can go watch him on YouTube. He has gone and done boss grinds, and he will have like lots and lots of videos about specific boss grinds and everything. One of the funny ones was like KQ, which is a boss in the desert and everything. He killed it 13,000 plus times. It's like 13,500 and something. I can't remember the exact number, but the drop rate for the pet was like I think it was like 1 in 3,000 and everything. And my boy went 13k dry before he saw the pet, so he went like 4 or 5 times over the drop rate for this pet, but he kept doing it. Not every single day, obviously. He went and did other things, but again, like when you have those statistics and numbers and everything, and you can say that you went X amount dry and everything, people, you know, can turn around and laugh at it, and you know, and it's fine. For us to not know these numbers for pitched, and to, I mean, RuneScape has a couple of things that are a pity system and everything, but a lot of the time they don't. A lot of the time, just the raw number of 1 in whatever, that's it. It stands at that. Even if we had something like that where it was just, you know, we knew that the number was 1 in 1,000 for a pitched 2 drop from each box each week. Again, we can stop speculating, you know, telling us that, you know, our drop rate and stuff like that affects it and everything. Just knowing those things rather than it just being us having to guess and everything. And again, this is one of those things that, like, we would know that these things are broken and there's issues with them. Like, remember when Challenger World 2 came out and we said that we're not getting enough arcane armor boxes and weapon boxes dropping, and Nexon said, no, it's perfectly fine and everything. Because we don't have the numbers and the statistics to compare against their numbers and statistics, we took a shot in the dark and hounded at them, and then they were like, oh yeah, sorry, our bad and everything. But did they give us arcanes afterwards? No, they didn't care. So again, not having the numbers to compare to not only alleviates your player base from hating you, but it also gives us something to compare against so that we can tell them when something is wrong. Because it's not like they run thousands of simulations to make sure that the drop variance for something is correct. So they're essentially relying on us when the game is live to field test for them. Yes, we have the public test server, private test server, whatever you want to call it. We have that now, and yes, we've had it in the past. I'm not going to go into that. But again, are you going to be able to get all the players to do the exact same thing and then put the statistics together in a spreadsheet to then send it to Nexon for them to double check the numbers? No, they're not going to care and everything. So again, without these systems that we can check ourselves manually, without them having to do it, so that our creators that make MapleStory videos can then tell them, hey, this is wrong, or we can make a Reddit post, or we can post in the Discord and everything. Because we can't do that, they will never take our word for it because we don't know the numbers. The only numbers that we know and everything, that the mathematical formulas that we know and everything, is by looking at those things like star forcing and everything, where they do tell us the supposed statistics and everything. So having something like that in the game to be able to see your statistics each time would be nice, because it just makes it a nicer experience and everything to know those drop rates, to understand the maths and the statistics behind things that you're interacting with, rather than just guessing all the time. Anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about today. I won't keep you any long. Sorry for the long rant, but there's a lot that is going on in interactive that just, it doesn't get shined on because a lot of our creators have moved away from interactive to heroic, because it it's faster to progress on heroic than it is on interactive, and when people progress on interactive, Matt Misusing is, you know, one of the prime creators that I used to watch and everything because he played on interactive. I don't know if he's still playing as actively, but when he was swiping his credit card for, you know, getting perfect gear and everything, it's not indicative of the average player. So, you know, it's cool and all to see, you know, when he hits big and everything, and you can dream about it all you want, but realistically he was spending, you know, a lot of money to hit those numbers. So here we are, stuck in this perpetual loop of essentially interactive is stuck behind our whales. And again, the only way to get stronger for me and a lot of these other players that don't have loads of money and everything, we're at the mercy of, you know, them adding 6 job, adding more common cores. I'm at the mercy of, you know, them changing the weekly so I can get more solar energy and more fragments and everything like that. Like that, I'm at the mercy of essentially KMS introducing a system that gives me more power that isn't just gear. Thank you very much for listening to my video and my rant. I will probably make another one of these and talk about some other things that are wrong with interactive. I hope that both interactive and heroic can work in tandem. I hope that GMS gets their head out of their ass and fixes a lot of these systems so that we can actually have a good game. And yeah, I hope that the player base continues to grow, and I will continue to play both heroic and interactive well into the future. I'll bring you guys some bossing stuff, hopefully get some good drops, and we'll see where I am in a year. See ya. Bye.